So with Valentine's Day coming up, I had this idea that maybe in today's pet pairing we can do a little Valentine themed look, and I can also for story time tell you how Hubs and I met, because I think that's a fun story to tell. How you met your significant other is always a fun story, so that's what we're going to do. But before we get into that, I wanted to give a shout out to Ana Luisa, who are currently having a very sweet Valentine's Day sale, and I wanted to show you a couple of the pieces that I have been absolutely loving from them in the last couple of weeks. Also, I don't know if you can see that Mona is behind me, unsure exactly where she wants to hang out. But anyway, I am decorated with a bunch of the pieces from Ana Luisa that I have been loving lately, and I have talked about a bunch of the things that I'm wearing, but there are a few new pieces that I wanted to mention specifically, and one of them are these incredibly cute earrings. They have a little bit of like that drop triangular shape to them, and I think they're so lovely and they're so unique. And you don't know that about me, but I have a thing for jewelry that has like a slightly triangular shape to them, so these are extremely up my alley. And the other thing that I've been loving from them is this ring with this beautiful white pearly stone on it. Now I have this ring already with the green stone on it because hello green, but I figured it would be very nice to have this ring because I actually really like it. It's quite easy to wear at the lab. I like bulky jewelry, but bulky jewelry is really inconvenient when you work in an experimental lab and you have to wear gloves and all. So I do like the louder rings, but I do really like how this is the sort of like the perfect middle. There is a little interesting element to it, and same with the one with the green stone, but I can still easily put on my gloves above it. And I think with this white pearly stone, this ring is just a little bit more versatile. I really love this one, but this one is obviously a little bit more limiting with the type of clothing you can wear. Honestly, you can probably wear it with everything if you were not me and you were not obsessed with color coordination, but I am, so in my brain I cannot really wear a green ring if I don't have any sort of like green elements in my clothing. So this one is perfect because it is neutral and it just literally goes with everything. And something else that you have already actually seen me wear, I think in at least one video, if not more, is this really cute, let me show you, dangly earrings. They are so adorable. They have this like little rectangular shape here, and then the little chain, and then the other rectangle has little like probably zirconia stones on it. And I just wanted to compare them to another like similar pair of earrings that I have, which is these ones that I have shown before. They have the same effect, like they're these like dangly, like if the wind blows they're going to like move around a lot type of earrings. They're really lovely, they're really elegant, but if these were too loud for you, I feel like these are the absolute perfect like middle ground, because you still get the cute dangly element, but they're not as loud as statement as these are. I will of course have a link to their website in the description box below. It is not an affiliated link, I don't make any money out of it, but if you would like to check out their jewelry, then now is your chance, because I think they have a really good sale. And now we can move on to the makeup look. I'm going to do it Chatty Get Ready With Me style, and in case you were wondering, I did ask you on Instagram whether you would prefer a neutral look or a pink look, and I'm saying a neutral look. It's because I think if I were to go out on a Valentine's date with my husband, I would probably wear a neutral look because I would want to wear a red lip. But the overwhelming amount of you, I'm just going to start doing my makeup. I'm going to apply my MAC primer, my depotted MAC primer, but an overwhelming amount of you insisted on doing a pink look, and I did have like a really cute pink look in mind, so I figured, you know what, let's do a little pink look. It's Valentine's Day and I could try wearing a color that I don't actually wear that often. And so how I met my husband. Ooh, that gave me a little How I Met Your Mother vibes. Okay, before we start with that story, let me paint you a picture, okay? It is the year 2010 and it is the roaring 20s, meaning Mariam is in her late 20s and her love life is wild. Like there is boy trouble at every corner. I had ended a really long relationship when I moved to the Netherlands. Then I got in some boy trouble here, and in the beginning of 2010 I had just turned 27 and I was like laying off the boys. I cannot have any more boy trouble. I need to focus my energy, my thoughts and my time on something else. And so I decided to do something that I had not dared to do since I moved here. Something you didn't, well, maybe I've mentioned it before, but you know, probably you forgot, because why would you remember details about my life? Before I moved to the Netherlands, and you're probably going to be shocked because I'm not a sportsy person, I never talk about sports. The only sport I practice is couch potatoing and I'm really good at it. But like anyway, because of that you'll probably be surprised to hear that in my, like right after or around the time that I was finishing high school and in the, like throughout college, I used to train Aikido. Aikido is a really beautiful Japanese martial art. I have to say at that point Aikido was not just like an exercise for me, it was a lifestyle. I feel like oftentimes with not just martial arts but like sports in general, if you enjoy it, it can get to the point where it's basically a huge part of your life. And in my case, it had really turned into not just sports but a huge part of my life, because my whole like social life revolved around Aikido. I was always hanging out with my friends from there. I had a boyfriend there, and honestly the amount of lengths that I would go through to be at training every single day, let me tell you, for like a good 4 or 5 years there I used to train every day, every work day, sometimes even on Saturdays, every freaking evening. Now I think of my like routine when I was in my early 20s and I get tired just thinking about it, because I would wake up, I most of the time started like classes around 7:30 or 9ish or so. So I would go to that all the day, bring my huge bag with my gi, and a few days a week I would actually finish classes in the afternoon, and then I would I had a job. Basically I had a little like side gig as an English teacher in a private school, and after that I would go to Aikido, which started, I want to say, every evening at 7 or something, between 7 and 9, and then I would go home late in the evening. How I survived that routine for many years, I have absolutely no idea. But anyway, that was quite the detour we took there. The point being that I stopped training Aikido when I moved here, because I figured, well, they probably teach it in Dutch. I don't speak a word of Dutch, and given that it's a martial art, the overwhelming amount of participants will be male, and I felt like incredibly intimidated just by the thought of that. So I didn't even consider going back to Aikido for many years, even though I knew that there is a club actually quite close by to the university and to where I lived, because I lived close by to the university at the time. And I still live close by to the university, just like slightly further away, but anyway. So there was a club, and I knew that they trained several times a week, but I just never felt brave enough to call and ask if I can like participate, if they were willing to maybe speak a little bit more English for me. And by 2010 I had started missing Aikido so much in my life, and I had made a little bit of progress with speaking Dutch, so I figured, you know what, maybe it's time for me to try. Oh, I'm taking my Pat McGrath Sublime Skin Foundation, by the way. So at the beginning of 2010 started missing Aikido a ton, and I thought, you know what, Maria, now that you have, you know, progressed a little bit with your Dutch and you feel a little bit more comfortable in this country, perhaps it is time to revisit Aikido. What do you know, maybe you find a really nice group of people to hang out with there. Not that I didn't have already a really nice group of people to hang out with, I had a wonderful group of people to hang out with, but you know, you never know. I finally decided to give that club a call. I spoke to the sensei there, so the teacher, and I explained the situation. I was like, listen, I would really like to at least come watch one time to see how things are, to see how I like it, and possibly join the club, but be warned, you know, my Dutch is okay, but you might have to repeat some things in English for me. And because it's the Netherlands and most people speak English really well, he was like, sure, no problem, join whenever you want. I'm going to take my Dior Backstage powder. So I went to watch the first training, and I vividly remember that evening because it was, again, past 7 in the evening. It was a rainy, windy, cold winter evening. I was biking to there and I was really questioning my life choices, okay? But I decided to persevere. I went, I sat through the training, and one of the first things that I immediately noted down in my head was like, okay, I don't see anyone here that I think I might get in boy trouble with, so I think I'm safe. I really enjoyed the training. There were also a couple of other ladies there, and I basically decided that I'm going to participate in the next training. So I'm actually going to go on the tatami, so the training mats, and train with everyone else the next time I join. So I do that. I sit on the tatami, I scout through, the crowd of people, and I lock eyes with this guy that was not present at the previous training session. And he is boy trouble. Like boy trouble written all over him. Exactly my type in terms of outer appearance. And I was like, oops, I am no longer safe at Aikido. And by the way, Monache has joined us here. Let's see, how can we keep her in the frame? I'm just going to turn a little bit more like this so that you can see her as well. For bronzer, I'm going to take my Milk Makeup bronzer stick. Anyway, I started going to trainings, and I don't know if you've ever trained martial arts, especially martial arts where you have to be coupled with another person. But first of all, it's not a social place. You're not there to be chit-chatting. You are coupled, in pairs, and sometimes you exchange a few words and sometimes you don't. So obviously, I had sparring one-on-one sessions with handsome dude, let's call him that. I had another nickname for him, but I feel like YouTube is not the place where I would like to share such intimate details, but let's say that I was calling him something in the lines of handsome dude. So I had, a couple of one-on-one sparring sessions with handsome dude, and obviously I came to know his name. And upon hearing his name, I immediately thought, oh, interesting. I think this guy also comes from Eastern Europe, maybe Russia or something, because his name sounded a little bit Russian to me. But during trainings, we, every now and then would exchange a few words. And because I came from Bulgaria, obviously I struck a conversation trying to figure out where he comes from, and then he told me where he came from. It was not Russia, it was still Eastern Europe, former Yugoslavia. And his family basically fled here when he was 10 because of the war in Bosnia. For blush, I'm going to take Pat McGrath Labs Nude Venus 2 from the holiday collection. So basically the months go by and we continue training. I still have, a major crush on him. So much so that at one point, half of my friends came to watch the training just so they can see handsome dude. And the ironic part was that they joined for an evening when another guy showed up who, in terms of outer appearance and the way I had described handsome dude, could easily have been him. So when we walked out of the training, they were like, so which one was it? So for a few months, I have a major crush on this guy, but I have no idea what's going on in his head because, he's a little bit of a poker face. You can't really tell. He's there to train. He's, serious business. At the same time, I sort of strike this friendly relationship with another guy at Aikido, there is no romantic interest involved. I don't think we were attracted to each other or anything. He was just the more chatty type, so sometimes I feel like he was a bit overly chatty for the setup that we were in. But anyway, I used to chat with him quite often, and he was sort of on friendly basis with handsome dude. On an unrelated note, I really love this Nude Venus 2 blush that came with the holidays, and I also love the highlighter that came with the holidays, which is Venusian Nude, which I know some people really didn't like because they found it to be too sparkly, but honestly I feel like at this point this is one of my favorite highlighters from Pat. I just love the undertones so much, and I like the glass skin effect that it gives, and I think once you really buff it into your skin, it's really not overwhelmingly glittery. But anyway, it's just my personal opinion, and I just wanted to say that I still really enjoy this highlighter and I use it all the time. So some months pass by, it's already getting into the beautiful warm spring days, and one evening handsome dude and I are both leaving Aikido. We are some of the last people to be leaving, and everyone bikes in the Netherlands, so we biked, because it seemed like we were biking in the same direction. And then it turned out that he and I live very close to each other, and we bike like 80% of the way together. So you can imagine, after that point, every time I was leaving training, I was secretly hoping that he hadn't left yet, so that we can bike back together. So we biked back together a couple of times, we had a few like nice chats, but for the life of me, I just couldn't figure out what kind of a person he is. Am I attracted to him just like physically, or do I also like him as a person? And you know, now that I know him and I think of this, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense, because Hubs is not like the chattiest person, especially not with like people that he has met recently. So I can totally see why our conversations sometimes were a little bit awkward. Anyway, I'm going to zoom you in and we're going to get started on the eye look. Thank goodness you can still see a little bit of Mona. So the first palette that I'm going to go into is my beloved Huetopian Dream palette, which, by the way, I used a couple of days ago because I had to talk myself out of the liquid eyeshadow from Pat in the shade Smoldering Seduction, which is like this beautiful reddish brown, blaming, of course, our favorite temptress Alicia for that. I had no interest in these freaking liquid eyeshadows. And then I watched her video and I'm on the website checking out 2 of them. But anyway, I decided to remain strong because I still feel deeply negative about owning liquid eyeshadows, and I thought, you know what, I actually have a beautiful reddish brown here in the Huetopian Dream palette, so I did a look with that all over my lids, and then I put the tiniest bit of this one over top for a few of these like pinkish flakes, and I loved the look so much that it immediately talked me out of Smoldering Seduction. But anyway, once again, I'm going completely off topic. Anyway, just a little side note, the 2 eyeshadows that I'm going to grab from this palette are these 2 mattes. I'm going to put the Dusty Rose shade all over my crease, and then I'm going to deepen out a little bit with this beautiful chocolate brown. I think this is one of my favorite browns from Pat. I just really love the undertone of that shade. I feel like it reminds me a little bit of Decade, Velvet Decade from Lisa Eldridge. Ooh, so we might wear Decade today. So where was I with story time? Oh yeah, so Handsome Dude and I occasionally bike together, we occasionally exchange a few words at Aikido, but nothing is happening. The tension is rising, but nothing is happening. And at the same time, you know, I occasionally have random chats with the other guy at Aikido, the really chatty one, and he brought up a couple of times something about Handsome Dude and me going out and liking each other, and I was like, that's weird, why are you bringing this up? Why are you asking me? Is it so obvious that I'm into him? But I kept denying that anything is going on, and I just kept it casual because obviously I wanted to come across as cool and not desperate. And then one day I'm at home and I get a text message from the chatty dude, and he's like, listen, I'm just going to be straight with you. Handsome Dude likes you. You should ask him out. And at that time, I'm, you know, a little bit shyer and I'm a little bit more conservative. I'm like, no, the guy needs to ask you out. I'm not going to ask him out. That's just fucking desperate. So I was like, really? Why do I have to ask him out, you know? What is the chance that he's going to ask me out himself? And then my chatty friend, who is also a little bit of like the clown, like funny type, says some random number, like, I don't know, 23%, but like something way below 50%. And I got all obviously giddy because I had a confirmation that Handsome Dude, you know, is into me as well. But at the same time, I have to like gather the courage to take the first step. Also just wanted to mention that I really like this Dusty Rose shade as well. It has like a neutral tone to it and it's not too overly pink, it's just the absolute perfect pink for me. Anyway, going back to my story time, I agonized for a couple of hours. What am I going to do? Am I going to ask him out? Or am I just going to take my chances and hope that he's going to ask me out? But something you should know about me is that if I'm scared of something, I like to put myself in a situation where I'm a little bit uncomfortable. I like to push myself to do things that I don't want. It doesn't always work, obviously, but sometimes it does. So I figured, you know what? Let's just do it. And I wrote a message and I tried to not come across as desperate, but I basically suggested that we get together for an ice cream, you know, one of the coming weekends. Because we had actually briefly talked about it on our bike rides back home, just like jokingly that we should get together for an ice cream one of those days, but you know, he never really made a move. So I suggested just casually that we go out, but I didn't indicate a date, I didn't indicate a time. I thought, you know what, now the ball is in your court. You need to take this a step further if you have any interest. And luckily, he immediately responded with a specific date and time, and we went out. It was the end of May. Well, towards the end of May. It was absolutely glorious, beautiful, like summery weather in the Netherlands. And we got together, we had ice cream in the park, then we had dinner, and then we just like hung out for a little bit. And honestly, we had an absolutely glorious time. He turned out to be someone who is very easy to talk to, someone who has a little bit of the type of humor that I have, which is like that dry, sardonic type that sometimes comes across as, you said something quite offensive and not funny, but like we have that like shared kind of humor. And I've come to realize that, I'm taking NYX glitter glue by the way, that sharing humor with your partner is incredibly important, because laughing at the same things is so important. Just like general views in life, we shared. So after that, you know, one glorious date, obviously the rest is history. We continued to go out, we continued to train. Let me tell you what we're going to do next though. So the next shade I'm going to go into is this beautiful pink shade from the Celestial Nirvana palette. And a little like side funny story related to this. You probably don't remember this, but I do. I haven't actually worn this shade many more times since that one look I did with it on the day that I had my biking accident. I did a really beautiful look with this eyeshadow. I was feeling myself. I looked, you know, as stunning as possible, and I was just feeling so good. And it was the day that I fell off my bike and broke my foot, and ever since I sort of associate this eyeshadow with that stupid incident. So I want to use it more because it's actually one of my favorite eyeshadows in here. I think it has such a beautiful tone. So we're using it for today's Valentine's Day look because I need to get over looking at it and associating it with the day that I fell. You know, it happened, it's done, it's over, I've recovered. Moving on. And I'm just going to use my finger actually. I think that a brush is a little bit less effective at transferring this eyeshadow on my lids. Look what a beautiful pink shade. I don't know whether my lighting is not making everything a little bit more pinkish reddish looking. I'll try to adjust it a little bit in post-production, but this shade is absolutely beautiful. It's probably one of my favorite metallic pinks that Pat has ever made. And that is basically the story of how I met Hubs. He still trains Aikido. I unfortunately do not. I stopped training around the time that I was in the 4th year of my PhD. I was making really late evenings at the lab. I was really tired. And another reason that I stopped training in the end was the fact that when you train under a certain teacher, you kind of get used to the style of that teacher. And I had the feeling that I never really got out of the style that I had learned in Bulgaria. And I was not making any progress. I was not getting used to the style of the teacher here. I was not really learning anything new, and I was just kind of like stuck at the same place, and it was getting me really frustrated. So in the end I stopped for these two reasons, which is really a shame because sometimes I still really miss it. Now don't you worry, we are going to put something sparkly on the lid, but I'm first going to apply my inner corner highlight. And I am secretly hoping that maybe some of you will share your stories of how you met your significant others. I would love to hear them. And also this year is going to be our 10-year wedding anniversary. Can't believe that is happening. But yeah, we've been married for 10 years this year. I'm quickly going to finish off my lower lash line by applying a little bit more of that beautiful chocolate brown shade before we apply the sparklies. And you probably have already guessed what the sparklies are going to be because it's one of the palettes in my thumbnail and it's the obvious choice from that palette on my thumbnail. Diving into Ritualistic Rose now, one of the Blitz Astral quills that was released for Holiday 2019. And of course going into the beautiful pink goldy astral shade. Honestly, if you didn't want extra sparkle and you wanted to keep it more subtle, I think this look is beautiful as it is. And from this point onwards, if you wanted to add sparkle, you could go any direction. You could put astral white, If you wanted to have like a pink blue duochrome, you could apply a little bit of Astral Venusian Orchid from Huetopian Dream if you wanted to get a bit more of like that limeish, greeny, goldy sparkle. But I am sticking with pink today, so we're going for this astral shade that I don't actually know the name of. Astral Rose Orchid. And I'm going to obviously pop a little bit of that here over top of the pink from Celestial Nirvana. And I think the pink base of the astral shade isn't going to come through at all, because it's very similar to the one of the eyeshadow underneath it, but it's just going to add that subtle layer of golden sparkle. Well, subtle. It's not going to be subtle because we're talking Pat McGrath glitter here, but you know what I mean. It would be an absolute crying shame not to show you the sparklies of this look. So here we go, sparkle time. You know it, of course I went for Velvet Decade from Lisa Eldridge, because Inception. Once the idea was seeded in my brain, it grew and had to become reality. So I am really actually pleased with how this look turned out. I really love it. This is the kind of like pink look that I can see myself wearing quite often, because it is just not too Barbie pink, it is not too cool toned pink, it is more like a neutral leaning pink, and I absolutely love it. I hope that you enjoyed this look. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. Do share your romantic stories if you are feeling up for it. Don't forget to check out Ana Luisa's Valentine's Day sale, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!